Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on a very, very sunny Saturday here in the UK. One day away from Arsenal returning to Premier League action. Fulham visit the Emirates tomorrow early afternoon kickoff at the Emirates. Been a fair while since, well, it certainly seems like it's been a fair while. Always seem to be there in the evening. So a little bit different this weekend. Arsenal kicking things off on Sunday, 1:30 kickoff against Fulham, looking to build on that fabulous performance on Thursday night in the Europa League. Got a little bit of an opportunity in the Premier League now. Tottenham dropping points again last night. Arsenal can move to within, I think it's 2 points behind Spurs if they win tomorrow. And that will give them a real opportunity, especially if wait and see what Harry Kane does with his ankle, which he limped off last night against Everton. If he's out for any sort of sustained period of time, I think Arsenal might have a chance of at least finishing above Spurs this season, which in what has been a pretty disappointing season for Arsenal in the league, that'll at least be something to not really celebrate, but to smile about, shall we say. Because it's always nice to finish above that lot. It's been a few years now since Arsenal have done that as well. So big couple of games coming up for Arsenal. They can focus on the Premier League for now, having booked themselves that semi-final spot against Villarreal. Got 2 home games coming up, Fulham and then Everton. Get 6 points from them, and the league table suddenly might well look an awful lot nicer, and still there might be a possibility of sneaking into the European spots in the Premier League. Obviously the Europa League, as I've said in previous videos, I think it has to take preference now, because that is the opportunity. It's not just to get into the Europa League, it's getting into the Champions League, also silverware as well. It's an opportunity to really rescue what's been a pretty miserable season for Arsenal, and they're giving themselves a good chance now. Obviously Villarreal in the semi-final, then either Man United or Roma in the final. They got an opportunity there to end the season with silverware and get themselves back in the Champions League, so that has to take preference. And Mikel's been speaking ahead of the game against Fulham about how the Europa League run now is going to affect the Premier League between now and the end of the season. He says it has to have an effect because it's a real challenge playing Thursdays and Sundays in terms of recovery, preparation, rotation. It's been like that throughout the season with all the other restrictions, injuries, COVID regulations. We've had even more, but now it's just about winning football matches. At the end of the season, you know what you want. You want to get on a good run if you want to progress in the Premier League. The priority now is Sunday. Forget about the semi-finals. We have 2 big games at home, and we have to do our best to win them, because if we do, the season will start to look a little bit different. So Mikel's certainly not giving up yet when it comes to earning themselves a European spot through the Premier League. He knows how important this week is going to be. It's rare that they can have a week where they can just put the Europa League to one side. They've got this opportunity now. 2 home games as well. Can they perform? Can they find some consistency for the first time in a while? They had a very good win at Sheffield United, had a very good win in Slavia Prague. Can they back that up now? 2 more wins at home in the Premier League. If they do, like Mikel says, things might start to look a little bit different in terms of the Premier League table. He also talks about the importance of momentum, and there is a little bit of momentum behind Arsenal now. Those 2 wins in the Premier League and the Europa League has given them a little bit of momentum. They've scored goals, haven't conceded goals, and he says, I think the better we are in the league, and if we keep winning, the confidence will be higher, the spirit will be better, the players' individual performances will maintain, and that will have a knock-on effect on the Europa League for sure. So he knows how important building this momentum is. This is the crucial stage of the season. Yes, it's been pretty horrible up to this point. Far too inconsistent, far too many defeats, draws, bad performances, awful mistakes, individual errors. It's been difficult to watch at times this season, but we are now at the crucial stage. A couple of months to go, or less than that, 6 weeks to go, and there's still plenty to play for Arsenal. If they can get on a winning run now and they can build the momentum, they can still end this season with something to celebrate, and Mikel knows how important that is for now. Right, so let's quickly talk about a couple of things ahead of this game against Fulham. The big talking points now. Let's start with Alexandre Lacazette. What a great run of form he has been on. 2 goals against Sheffield United, 2 goals again in midweek against Slavia Prague. He's up to, what, 17 for the season now. As always, because of his contract situation, there's been lots of talks about his future. What is going to happen? Mikel was asked about it again yesterday after the game against Slavia Prague. He steered away from really talking too much about it. He kind of joked when he said, has there been any movement on the new deal? He just says yes, that he recovers today and he scores more goals. So he was joking as he said the answer. So he was doing his best to steer clear of any talk about contracts. Now, we know his future is going to be decided in the summer. That's when the talks about whether he should sign a new contract, whether Arsenal move him on. That's when it will happen. For now, Arsenal and Arteta and Lacazette, to be fair, just want to focus on the end of the season. And with the form he's in at the moment, that is probably the wise moves. You don't want to suddenly start throwing contracts in there and start messing up the headspace it is in. But he's been talking a lot about Lacazette in the build-up to the game against Fulham. Mikel, he's been giving him awful lot of praise, deservedly so, because he's really stepped up. He says, in key moments and in big matches, you need players and senior players who have this experience to make the difference for you. For me, in his style and his development, even if he is soon turning 30 years old, he's on the right path because he's willing to learn. He's doing lots of things in a better way than before. He really glues the team together, and that's a quality that is not easy for a striker. He's got it. So big praise there for Lacazette. Interesting and well when we talk about his future, that Mikel saying even though he's 30, he's there's still more to come from him. Possibly he's still now learning how to be that striker that glues the team together. I thought that was an interesting one there, where he's saying even though he's soon turning 30, he's on the right path because he's willing to learn. So there's still room for improvement, according to Mikel Arteta there. Is that a hint that Mikel might want him to stay and sign a new contract? Again, we're going to have to wait until the summer to find out exactly what the future holds for Alexandre Lacazette. But there is absolutely no doubt at the moment that he is in excellent form. And I think the way he's responded from the Slavia Prague first leg, you think about that miss when he went through one-on-one, he missed, he hit the post, he got a lot of criticism for that. He had, a lot of people were mocking him for his lack of pace as he went through, that sort of thing. And the way he's responded with 4 goals in 2 games since then, really clinical in front of goal. I mean, his shot conversion rate is fantastic this season. When you actually look, I think he's way out ahead of everyone in terms of the Premier League. In terms of his shot conversion rate, it's up to like 30% or something. When he gets a chance, he's scoring this season more often than not, Alexandre Lacazette. And that is an impressive start. And this is what he's had to say here when Mikel was asked, look, obviously his contract's up in the summer, is he the kind of player you want to keep at the club? And he said, when you're facing difficult moments, it's about how you react to them. Laka has done it in a really positive way. He has got moments like any striker in the world when he's not going to be scoring, and it is about how you react to that. I think the team is enjoying playing with him because he knows the team is ahead of anything. He is not a selfish striker at all, but he has ambition to score in every game, which is what every striker needs. He is complementing those two things in a really clever and efficient way, and he is doing that. He deserves a lot of praise. I think there's been a lot of talk recently about who is better up front for Arsenal, Lacazette or Aubameyang. 2 very different strikers. Auba obviously plays on the last shoulder, wants to get in behind, not really a team player. He's not the sort of striker that can hold the ball up. It tends to bounce off him. We've seen that when he tries to be the central striker. And that's not a criticism, it's just the way he is. He's made his career of scoring goals in and around the penalty area. He's not someone who really plays with his back to goal and can hold the defender off and that sort of thing. He wants to run in behind. Lacazette, meanwhile, is completely opposite. Yes, he's still a penalty box poacher, really, when you look at his stats and his finishes. And as I said, his conversion rate this season is fantastic, so his finishing is spot on. But it's not just about that, it's about his link-up play, and recently he's really been dialed in with that. I remember the game, it was West Ham, wasn't it, the 3-3, he was great in that game when it came to flicking the balls around the corner, playing in the runners, and he's carried that on, and he was excellent against Sheffield United and against Slavia Prague. So I think he deserves an awful lot of credit, and what Mikel says there is absolutely right. He is bang on for the team at the moment. And for me, even if Auba is fit relatively soon, and we'll get to Auba in a little bit in terms of his recovery from malaria, I think Lacazette has to be the nailed-on striker now. The whole Laka-Auba thing, for me, no, you're not playing them together. It's got to be one or the other. You can't bring Auba back and play him on the left and play Laka up front. It just doesn't work. We've seen that. It doesn't work anymore. Arsenal have to move on for that. It's either one or the other for me. And in terms of the form they're in at the moment and what they're bringing to the team, even when Auba's fit, I think Lacazette has to be the starting striker at this moment in time. From one striker to another, let's quickly talk about Folarin Balogun, because Mikel has been speaking about him a little bit more and that new contract of his, which we know has been agreed, but it hasn't been announced yet. But Mikel has been speaking more in a really good interview with Sky Sports. Actually, get over to Sky Sports website and you can find it. It's their exclusive interview with Mikel ahead of Sunday's match against Fulham. He talks about Balogun, Smith Rowe, Pepe, lots of interesting things. It's well worth a read, that interview. But he talks about Balogun's contract here and about the future with Balogun at Arsenal. He was asked, how have you managed to turn it around and get Balogun to sign his deal, and he said in all aspects he knows that we trust him and that we want to have a future together. Then we needed to link that all with the people at the club, with the right support from Per Mertesacker in the academy, and with the work that Edu has done over the months to undo what was happening in the direction the situation was taken. Edu has completely turned that into a position where now the player is going to stay with us. So big praise for Edu there in terms of turning that situation around, because we all know that it looked pretty certain that Balogun was going to be going, but Arsenal spent a lot of time working with it. Edu has clearly spent a lot of time working with Balogun and his agent in laying out the roadmap to the first team and what Arsenal want to do with him in the future, and that has made a big impact. And we've seen the U-turn now where it comes to Balogun is signing a new deal and staying at Arsenal, although obviously that still hasn't been announced, but as Mikel's saying here that he's going to stay. And when he talked about Balogun and what could happen next, he says, look, he's a very hungry boy. He wants to do everything. He wants to practice more every single day. He has unique qualities as a striker. His speed and the way he holds the ball. He's a real goal threat and he works tremendously hard. He'll be pushing anybody in our first team to get his spot, and that's exactly what we want. He's got the chance. Now it's the time to prove himself. We have to give him the right support, which he will get, and then it's up to him and what he does on the pitch. Now, Balogun, I've spoken about this before. It's interesting for me. What are they going to do with him next season? Are they going to keep him and use him, in and around the first team week in, week out? Or are they going to send him out on loan? Now they've got him secured to a long-term contract. You've got that security of being able to send him out on loan and him coming back. And I've mentioned before, maybe it is going to be better for him to go out on loan because he's going to play week in, week out and get minutes, which he needs at his age now. It's not really going to be doing him any good sitting on the bench all the time. But what Mikel says here sort of hints that he's going to keep him around, where he says he'll be pushing anybody in our first team to get the spot, and that's what we want. Maybe he is going to keep him around. He talks about his qualities. He says speed, hold up the ball, goal threat. That's all. That's an all-round striker there he's talking about, and I think that's what sets Balogun apart from like Eddie, who we've seen this season. Eddie seems pretty one-dimensional. I think with probably this will be the last couple of months we see Eddie as an Arsenal player. I'd be very surprised if he starts next season at Arsenal. I think he'll move on in the summer. And I think in the decision that Arsenal have made when it comes to pay maybe Balogun and Eddie going forward, they see Balogun as an all-round striker who's got a lot more to his game than just a one-dimensional forward finisher that Eddie really is. So interesting stuff there, I thought, on Balogun from Mikel Arteta. And like I said, well worth getting over to Sky Sports and watching or reading that full interview. All right, before I start to wrap this up, let's talk about Auba quickly. Not expecting Auba to be back against Fulham. I think he's going to be recovering for a little while yet. This is what Mikel had to say. He says, let's see how he recovers. Obviously, when you get a disease like this, it can take a bit of time for the body to feel in good condition, to get to the extreme condition that we put the body through in our sport. But he wants to come back very quickly. He's looking forward to being back with the team. So let's wait. Obviously, no rush for Arsenal at the moment because they're scoring goals without Aubameyang, which is a positive because they weren't doing that last season. Last season, you'd see this as an absolute nightmare, but it's not really the nightmare that it could have been because Lacazette scoring goals, Pepe scoring goals, Saka scoring goals, Martinelli's come back and scoring goals. So it's not, they don't have to rush to get Auba back in the team. Obviously, we want to see him back and available soon because A, he's a very good player, he's captain, but B, it just means that he's going to be healthy, and I think that's the important thing. When you get a disease like malaria, the important thing is just to be healthy and get yourself safe, and it looks like, thankfully, that is what's going to happen with Aubameyang. Mikel continues, says Auba is a really big part of our team, a really important player in our squad, and he will continue to be so. You need those players in the team to be successful, and that is not going to change overnight because we are winning 1 or 2 games without him. It's great that the team has the ability and capacity to resolve when we are missing some important players. The same goes for David Luiz, Kieran Tierney, and many others we have missed, like Martin Odegaard at the moment. And it is, it's a big boost for Arsenal that they're scoring goals without Aubameyang, because last season we all know if Aubameyang didn't score, Arsenal didn't really tend to win any football matches. Just before I do my predicted at 11, Nicolas Pepe, as I said yesterday's video, brilliant against Slavia Prague, really playing well at the moment. And Mikel's been speaking about him, and he's been talking about sort of individual sessions and private conversations he's been having with Nicolas to try and get him to the next level at the moment. And he said, look, we're trying to convince him. Nico has the ability. It depends on him. We can help him as much as we can, but he needs to have the right mindset and consistency to do what he can do, because that is the level, and he talks about Thursday night, saying that is the level that we are going to ask of him, the level I am asking of him. If it is something below that, he is not going to play, but if he does what he can do on Thursday night, and he'll have a big chance to play because he has got incredible ability. He says I think he needed to do that, which has changed his mindset. He needed a period of adaptation since he arrived. That's gone now. We cannot rely on adaptation anymore. Now it's about performance, and he can do it. He has got the players to support him, a manager that trusts him. He's got staff who are willing to help him, and all his teammates really like him because he is a really likeable character. There are no excuses. So a bit of a message there from Mikel to Nicolas. He's been working really hard with Pepe. He's said this sort of thing before. It's all about Pepe showing him consistency. And I know everyone's going to sort of complain a little bit, say, look, well, you keep playing Willian and he stunk the place out all season and you're stuck with him. He hasn't scored a goal yet this season, and yet Pepe comes in, plays pretty well, gets taken out of the team again. And it kind of feels like one rule for one rule for the other, which, to be fair, I kind of agree with. But I think the thing with Pepe is we know how good he can be. On his day, it's just about keeping that level, and if he can keep that level, then Arsenal have got a hell of a player on their hands. Perhaps not a £72 million player, which is one unfortunate thing with Nico. That price tag is always going to go hand in hand with him. I think we all know Arsenal overpaid for Nicolas Pepe. There's no doubt about him. That we haven't seen anything suggested a £72 million player yet, but he's still a very good player. And when you look at his stats, 33 goal involvements since now and the start of last season when he arrived. Only Lacazette and Aubameyang have scored more than that. He's got 10 goals this season, got 8 last season. So his numbers are decent. You know, if Arsenal signed him for £30-40 million, no one would be saying a word about him. It's just because of that price tag that he's always judged, perhaps unfairly, but this is football. But there's no doubt that Nicolas Pepe recently has been much improved. When he has been playing, he's making a big impact. And for me, again, I think he has to start on Sunday against Fulham. I think it'd be unfair if he doesn't. Then you've got to work out what happens. You know, do you play Martinelli? How does Martinelli get in the team? It's a nice decision for Mikel Arteta to have, but a tricky one at that. So just before I go, let's do that predicted 11. I think he's going to go very strong. I don't think we're going to see too much rotation. Arsenal don't have to play again until Friday. I think he'll try and get pretty much, certainly going forward, the same sort of team that we saw against Slavia Prague and Sheffield United. Maybe, I think if he's going to make changes, it might be at fullback. We might see Bellerin come back in, might see Cedric on the left. But this is what I'm going to go for me. My predicted 11 of what I think Mikel's going to do. I'm going to say Leno in goal. I'm going to go with Bellerin at right back. I think he's going to stick with Holding and Murray as the centre-backs. I'm going to say Xhaka at left back again. Ceballos and Partey in the midfield. And then I'm going to go with Pepe on the right, Saka at 10, Martinelli on the left and Lacazette up front. I wonder if he might give Smith Rowe a little bit more of a rest after getting him back from injury, playing him against Slavia Prague. He brought him off earlier against Prague. Obviously, I wonder if he might give him a little bit more of a rest, Smith Rowe, just to make sure there's no issues with that, any sort of recurrence of the injury. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Saka, like he did against Sheffield United, playing number 10, and that would allow Pepe and Martinelli to start for Arsenal with Lacazette again as a central striker. So that's my predicted 11, what I'm going for. One more time there: Leno, Bellerin, Holding, Murray, Xhaka, Partey, Ceballos, Saka, Pepe, Saka, Martinelli and Lacazette. Alright everyone, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'll be at the Emirates tomorrow bright and early. Hopefully it'll be nice and sunny like this so we can enjoy a nice day of Arsenal goals, decent performance and another win in the Emirates sunshine. Until then everyone, have a very good day. I'll speak to you soon.